Hey, welcome to the Overshare Pamphlet. My name is Rob, and I'm the host of this one-man show, coming to you every Monday, 6 a.m. UK time. And today, we're talking about something that, is in my bag, to be fair, but I don't usually talk about it on podcast because, I don't know, I feel like it's been an on and off topic, and it has become like a pretty controversial topic as well recently. I think the hype of these kinds of movies has died down, or more than died down. That like I think it's all over the place, and people have very contrasting opinions on these. So, but yeah, and I haven't also watched anything super exciting from the Marvel department in that sense. So yes, I'm talking about Captain America, Brave New World. No, brand new. Brave New World. Captain America 4, technically, but also the first Captain America movie where Steve Rogers is no longer Captain America. So it's like the first Sam Wilson Captain America movie. So, and I want you to keep that in mind. This is a first installment of this version of Captain America. So it's not by any stretch of the imagination a proper sequel, but it's more like a restart in that sense for this new version of Captain America. So yeah, anyways, so I'll be getting to the plot roughly. I don't want to be too much into the spoiler territory, I guess. Well, actually, unfortunately, I think I might have to like get a bit into some spoilers, of course, but I'll try to first give a summary. But I would still say that if you haven't watched the movie, maybe listen to this at your own risk. And if you are not planning to watch it, then you can listen to this. Or if you do plan on watching it, then and you don't mind talking about spoilers, then don't. But if you do mind, then just go watch it and listen to this again. So yeah. Anyways, just wanted to point out. Talk about the movie in general, what I think about it, what I think worked and what I think didn't work, and what's my opinion on the movie overall. And I think I want to connect this to like a larger conversation about Marvel and superhero movies and just in general Disney, and I guess like the Marvel phase 4, phase 5, whatever we're in, the multiverse saga, how it's been going, and how I think it's going to fare in the long term and where it's going to go next, and if there's any chance for Marvel to still redeem itself and, bring back its audience, I guess, core audience at least. But yeah, so I'm going to go over it, all over every single thing in there. But yeah, first off, as you know, songs of the week. Now, I want to start off by talking about mayhaps. And you know what? I'm going to talk about this. So, if you don't know anything about Italian music in that sense and what time of the year this is for Italian music, we just finished the seasonal Sanremo festival, which is a music festival where multiple singers compete with brand new songs released on the same day, and they perform them for like 3 or 4 days, basically, like in evenings in that sense. And then there is a winner that is voted by I think a board, and the best song basically then is sort of crowned as the best song of the country in that sense, so like the best out of all the singers that have participated in this festival. And then the winner also goes to Eurovision, which is very important here because sometimes the voters have taken that into account and sometimes they don't, but whatever, that's besides the point. The winner of this year has been just terrible, in my opinion. Like, they chose really probably the worst candidate for that, but whatever. But out of all these songs, I've found some interesting ones, and they're all in Italian, but who cares? Like, I think you guys would still enjoy, I guess, listening to some Italian music, maybe, mayhaps. But the one I've been really listening to on repeat has been Fango in Paradiso, which is mud in heaven, maybe just literally translated by Francesca Michelin, which is basically a sort of ballad. I would venture to say Swiftian adjacent. I know big words here, but it is it is that in any possible way. I just really like the lyrical content of the song. It's very so the topic of the song is basically a breakup and like a long lasting relationship that finally dissolves basically into and like leads to this like it's breaking down by this breakup and all that stuff, and it's sort of like a recollection of all the moments in the past and like the reasons that brought these two people to break up, and mostly Francesca's perspective of how this went down and why she decided to break up with this person. And there's a lot of great writing on here. A lot of metaphors, a lot of interesting imagery, I guess, here, and that really describes, the person that we're talking about, the boy in question, pretty well. The boy, the man. Don't get me wrong. And there's a lot of like relatable stuff as well about, thinking about this person after the breakup, saying like, I wonder who you're gonna have kids with, and if you're gonna move address, and if I'm ever gonna see you again, and if I'm gonna run into you again, and all that. Oh my god, that was loud. But yeah, so it's very interesting, and I also loved the structure of the song, which also reminds me a lot of a Swiftian sort of type of track, because there are a couple of lyric changes throughout the song, and a lot of like some interesting repetition, and a post chorus used as a bridge. Well, a double repetition of a chorus with changing words and all that stuff. Outro being also a post chorus. Very interesting stuff. Like very cool. I would say like structure of the song and inventive writing in that sense, and that's the typical sign of Taylor Swift's writing. Like she loves to like make a pop song spicy by changing the structure of the song, or like by using different words or different lyrics for the same chorus or for the same for an outro, whatever. So it's just very very interesting. I really enjoyed it. So check it out. I mean, if you're in the mood for something like a bit more ballady, it's definitely a power ballad, basically. Yeah. So give it a go. Give it a go. Give it a go. Then other song I want to talk about is "Salty" by Changha and Sinmi. Changha is back with her. Well, I don't know what. Well, this is her in her new contract, I guess, in a new label, the second EP in this under this label, and a lot of great songs in here. But I think I just love Sunmi so much as a soloist as well, and these two, Tana and Sunmi, used to be the it girls in the soloist category for the girls back in 2016, 17 in K-pop, third gen basically. So if you were around at that time, you would know that this is a huge deal, because these two girls specifically were dominating the solo camp, I guess, in that sense of K-pop. So this is a big deal in any event, but love the collab. Very very cool stuff. Very interesting vibe of the song. It's very poppy, very very cute sound in that sense. So I am quite satisfied with the song. I love their voices in this. It's just like, I think it's a good blend of, because they have two different tones. I think Changha is a bit more like projecting, like she's more of a projector in terms of voice, but Sammy's a bit more like soft and stylistic type of singer, and it just rocks. The song is so catchy, and just being a cold ass bitch, like a cold hearted bitch, basically. Love it, loves it. There's a lot of great stuff on here, so I would say maybe give it a go, give it a listen. If you know anything about historical moments in K-pop, this is it. This is it for real, for real. So, um, yeah, pretty cool stuff. Then I do want to talk about High Fashion by Addison Rae because bitch, she's done it again. I'm really vibing with this version of Addison. I think she's honing her sound quite a bit, like this very falsetto-y type of singing style. But I think what really takes the cake here is this production that is like very like I don't know how to explain it, but like it sounds very 2014 in that sense, but modernized of course. It's very EDM-y in that sense and very cool. Um, I just really, really love what she's doing. In terms of, well, lyrics are a bit corny maybe sometimes, but I don't know. Like she's saying basically, I know I'm drunk, but I don't need your drugs. I'd rather get high fashion. Don't want cheap love. I'd rather get high fashion. I don't need your drugs, whatever. She repeats that, but I think the production is like very interesting. Like it's a very like infectious type of like it's a very heavy type of EDM type of production maybe, but it's not fast paced whatsoever. Like it sounds something that Ellie Goulding maybe could have production, but it's like more experimental than that. Like the melody of the production doesn't really match necessarily the melody of the singing, but sometimes somehow it works. I don't know how to explain it, but it's just like very very good, and it's a very moody like constant mood type of track. It's just incredible, but it has that like 2014 type of vibe, not necessarily dated per se, because it's not that, but yeah, I just think she's just in her bag, and she's this is part of a EP. I think they said like it's 9 tracks, maybe perhaps, and it would include like Pepsi and what was it, Aquamarine, and I understand why, because it is very much in that same like soundscape maybe, same stylistic, singing in that sense, very very cool stuff. But I Fashion is that bitch, so just go listen to it. And also the video, oh my god, the video is so good. The reference to Wicked and all that stuff, just the slippers, the red slippers and everything else, just very cool stuff. And yeah, I would definitely say she is onto something big here. I am very much tuning in for, well, whatever. I'm not entirely sure when it's gonna be released, but I'll be tuning in for that. Just very cool stuff. Yeah. Then maybe yeah. Okay. Let's end with this one. I was not aware that Tyler the Creator and Brian Beatty, I still don't know how to say their name, but they had like multiple collaborations, like two collaborations for the um for the Grinch, like the illumination and like the animation thing movie The Grinch. They made 2 songs. Well, Tyler the Creator made an entire EP for that, but he made an EP out like for the movie, and there's 2 songs that were basically featuring Ryan Beatty. One I think is just Tyler and him, and the other one is like with Santi Gold. I don't know who that is, but both songs are incredible. Both songs are super fucking good, and I would recommend listening to both of them. But if I had to choose one, actually I don't know which one to choose between the two. I would say mayhaps Lights On. I know it's a very Christmassy song in that sense, the the message, but I just like the production wise, like very R&B adjacent, and R&B. Ryan Biddy, like he is definitely very famous for like Calico, but also this reminds me a bit of his Boy in Jeans EP, where it was more like dabbling with R&B production and style basically, but very cool stuff. And also it's very Tyler the Creator as well, production wise as well. I don't know, it just like works so well. So I am intrigued very much by I hope they do collaborate even more further down the line. Um, but yes, I am interested definitely in that. Um, like I hope they actually have more stuff coming through, and maybe we'll see more of them. But check out both of them to be fair. The other one is called When Gloves Come Off. And it's also incredible. So yeah, just give it a go, give it a go, give it a listen, give it a little listen. And that's pretty much it for the songs, because I don't want to be too, you know, I guess like I don't want to bombard you with like too many songs, but yeah, let's get into the real topic, which is Captain America 4 Brave New World. Now, I want to start off this by saying that I have noticed that basically, well, I mean, I would label this period of time, I guess, a bit of a Marvel hate train specifically, but I think it's like under a bigger umbrella of just, it's a culmination of very different facts. It is, I don't want to cut some slack from Marvel, but I also want to play a bit, like, I want to defend a bit the Marvel movies in that sense, because I've seen people, it's trendy basically now to shit on Marvel movies, and I think it's partially due to superhero fatigue and just in general people being fed up with shitty movies coming from these, both from Marvel and DC. Joker 2 was a big blow to that space, to the comic book space specifically, but Marvel of course also had a part to play in this, because they have also released very mediocre movies and cannot really blame people for reacting like that. But also I think the pendulum has swung too much into this other direction, where basically any movies met with skepticism. And I know you might say immediately that, well, what about Deadpool and Wolverine or whatever? I think that movie was very successful because of marketing strategies. And I would venture to say that in any event, while that definitely was a better movie than this one, it wasn't that much better in my opinion. It was still good. It was still a good movie. And even this one, in my opinion, is a good movie. It's a good, solid movie. And I think it's just like good, average Marvel. By any stretch of the imagination, it's not one of the worst movies ever done by Marvel. They have done way worse. And this movie is, I guess, on par with other Captain America movies. So I don't really see. I think it's a bit hypocritical and a bit just like, hating for a trend of it. It's just a bit stupid. So I'm here to sort of like, defend this movie, I think. I would agree with y'all that it's not the best movie again, as I said, but I would still say that it's a very solid movie. Still good. Not bad by any stretch of the imagination. So, yes. Anyways, first off, another disclaimer as well is that this is supposed to be the first Sam Wilson solo movie. So this technically is Captain America 4, but it's more like Captain America 1 for Sam Wilson. So that's also why I think people should just like, be a bit more open-minded with this. Like, you cannot expect to have a big Avenger level type of movie here. This is the first movie where Sam Wilson is Captain America. So this is like a first solo movie in a trilogy, probably, I assume. So keep it down, keep your expectations down when it comes to that, because this is not going to be another, I think it's already pretty interesting that they put in the Hulk and all that stuff, the Red Hulk and all that stuff, like in terms of connections, I guess, like important characters in this. That's already an upgrade in that sense, because the first Captain America movie didn't have any of that in terms of popular characters apart from Captain America. So yes, keep that also in mind, I think, when you go into watching this movie. But what is this about? What is this movie about? This is a movie that sort of introduces Sam properly as the new Captain America after the events of Endgame, and if you haven't watched also The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, there's sort of like a sequel to that, but mostly it's just all you need to know is that basically old Captain America received Rogers as, given the mantle to Sam Wilson. He has chosen him to be the next Captain America. And here, this movie is sort of like, Captain America finding his own footing in this new, very confusing world, right? After the events of Endgame and, the dissolution of the Avengers and all that stuff. So here, Captain America has to sort of try and link back and reestablish a relationship with the new president of the United States, which is President Ross here. Ross is basically, he was a military sergeant, I think, who was elected as president in order to protect, humans from uncontrolled superheroes, like unchecked superheroes and vigilantes in that sense. So, but I mean, there is a history that involves basically Captain Ross. He's never been, especially liked by any of the Avengers specifically. He was the man behind Civil War and all that stuff. Like the Course of Sokovia, he was the one who sort of played a hand in this dissolving the Avengers per se. So you can imagine that Sam Wilson has definitely bad blood with this man, but he also is a man of integrity, and he is Captain America, which is made very clear in the movie that is as important as a president, for the United States. He represents also the United States and the Americans. So I was very intrigued to see how these two people would, relink and try to appease, whatever bad blood they had and all that stuff. So yeah, Captain America here, and also the other side of this conversation is also Steve Rogers left a big, some big shoes to fill in, basically, right? Like, the pressure is on Sam to get this mantle and and prove to the world that he's worthy of being Captain America. Not only a good Captain America, but also be good enough as a black superhero and also a non-enhanced superhero, because he doesn't have the super soldier serum, so he's like a pretty much a normal human being with a lot of expertise in fighting and military strategies and all that stuff. So he has to prove to the world that he is worthy of being Captain America, and he's worthy to, he's good enough. He's if not even better than Steve Rogers to bring back, the United States together and also lead potentially the Avengers if they're gonna come back, which they will. But yeah, so that's sort of the main plot line of the movie, and it is a political thriller because basically in between these two characters, Ross and Sam Wilson, someone is a villain basically, is trying to stir the pot and basically sever this relationship again, and to ruin the reputation of Captain Ross and bring up, and uncover some of his darkest secrets and some of his evil deeds that he has done in the past. And so that's the entire, I guess, purpose of the movie, is to uncover who this person is and stop him from tearing the US and the world in general apart again. So, yeah. And again, I want to stress that this is a political thriller, but under the Marvel universe. So it is more accessible, I guess, for the families and the children and all that stuff. But it's still very sophisticated, I think, because it still deals with a lot of interesting topics, which are, for example, very current also to nowadays political spectrum, I guess, and political setting in the US, but also I think maybe worldwide, because it is, after all, dealing with, a president that is elected, I guess, in a very interesting, political climate and a fractured America and all that stuff, and it's very much what's happening today as well. So there's a lot there, and there's a lot to discuss, of course. And I do want to also say that even though these topics are definitely explored, this movie is not, of course, going to give you an answer in terms of, who to vote or all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it is a political thriller, but also is not necessarily like choosing any sides from liberal to Republican. So, and that's definitely in my view a merit of the movie, because the position that Marvel is in, which is like very much a position of, I guess, how to say, like this movie has been, and in general Marvel has been, and Disney by the same token, been criticized severely by the conservative audiences. So it was in Marvel's best interest and in Disney's best interest to just be as, you know, neutral when it comes to the depiction of the president and the politics of the U.S. as possible. But it does also deal with international conflict and secure resources and all of that stuff. So it is very, very cool. And again, there's also a lot of talk about there's a lot to talk about in terms of when a leader has to sort of prove to other people that he's worthy of being in that position, and what constitutes a proper leader, and why was Sam also chosen to represent the country in that sense by Steve Rogers. And we get answers to that, of course. So that's really, really, really powerful, I think, as a movie. And again, he is a Black American citizen becoming probably the most famous, I guess, American superhero. So it's just incredible to me. Like, these are some very, big shoes to fill in. And I think Sam Wilson, but also the actor in general, does a great job at doing that. And it's just a very powerful message, again. So I am quite satisfied with the message of the movie. So, yeah. I want to talk about first what I think overall the movie is. What are the good sides and what are the bad sides, I think, of the movie, what could have been improved and what I didn't particularly like. So let's get into that specifically. So let's start with I want to start with the bad, maybe. Okay, so maybe the bad. Yeah, let's start with the bad. So, as any Captain America movie, you're supposed to have a Black Widow here, and you do have a Black Widow here who works, interestingly enough, for the U.S. government. Like, usually, Black Widows are spies from Russia in that sense, like from the Red Room in Russia. But of course, they went for this other route, which is quite interesting, I guess. But I think the bad side of this is that, I don't know, they haven't chosen a proper actress, a good actress enough for this role. I think she is more like, I would say she's still a good actress, but I don't think she is a good Black Widow, if that makes any sense, as actress. Physicality wise, she's very small and not very showy as the other Black Widows. And also, I think Black Widows they're not necessarily like sexually, interesting in that sense. I don't know, like they're a bit more seducing, but they definitely are a bit more, like physicality wise, a bit more like feminine in that sense, right? And a bit more acrobatic. Well, this lady who was cast for this role is a bit of an interesting, character, and I don't really think she's ideal in this. I would have rather seen Yelena Belova in this one, but she's in her own movie, which is the Thunderbolts, which will come out later on this year as well. So I just wish we had a better Black Widow in this movie. That's it. So I don't think she was very, she didn't really add much to the movie per se. So yeah. Also, I do think sometimes the movie feels less cinematic than it's supposed to. Sometimes it feels a bit cheap, which is insane because this movie is, I think, cost like $300 million or something. So I don't understand where all that money went. Probably in the reshoots, most definitely in the reshoots. But it's crazy. Sometimes it feels a bit cheap. I'm just gonna say that. It just feels a bit cheap sometimes. It feels a bit too TV showy in that sense. Some action sequence and some settings and everything do feel cinematic. Don't get me wrong. Even the scene where Sam goes to the White House to meet the president, that is also a very cinematic scene. But some other scenes are a bit more like TV show adjacent, I guess. Like the mission where they have to retrieve the adamantium and all that stuff. It's just a bit of everything. So it doesn't really feel very cinematic there, but I don't know. Yeah. Also, another complaint I have is that the Easter eggs planted in this movie are definitely there. Don't get me wrong. There's definitely some stuff like, you know, the first Hulk movie, the villain, like a villain hinted in back in the days like so long ago, is now making an appearance. He's the main villain here, the leader, and then there's Captain Ross's daughter coming back in, like for a cameo, and Bucky as well. But none of these are, I would say, very strong. I would have used maybe the strongest one in my opinion of the Easter eggs is the adamantium that finally makes an appearance in the MCU, is finally introduced in the MCU, and the adamantium here comes from the Celestials and is linked back to the Eternals, right? So if you haven't watched the Eternals, basically at the end of the Eternals, this giant cosmic entity basically emerges from the Earth, but is stopped by the Eternals, and it creates this very interesting setting in the, I think it's in the Indian Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, I can't remember, but it's basically this giant turned into like a stone and becomes like it's called a celestial island, but basically people have extracted adamantium out of that giant that emerged from the Earth, basically, right? And that's a new introduction to this element. But as you may or may not know, this is a very important element for the birth of Wolverine. So this is definitely an Easter egg for the X-Men and for everything that is gonna come after Doomsday and everything else. So that was really exciting for me. When I first heard adamantium in the movie, I was like, oh, they're doing it. So they're planting seeds. This is what I love about the Marvel stuff. They're doing it. But I could have used some stronger, I guess, Easter eggs, specifically for the Doomsday situation, Doctor Doom, and, the Avengers movie that are going to come out, in 2026, so next year, in 2027. So I could have used more of that. So that's another complaint I had. But, and also, adding on to that, I think there's no important end credit scene, which is, it's getting a bit frustrating. Like, give us some cool end credit scenes that make us excited for the next movies. You know what I mean? Just give us something. Please, give us something. But, yeah, so, but that's probably the main, some of the main things that I didn't really particularly enjoy about the movie. But yeah, the things that I did really like were the acting. The acting was really, really good from all, like Giancarlo Esposito, whatever his name is, and all that stuff. So yeah, loved all of them. So they had an incredible run in this movie, I think, acting wise. Like the emotional tension was really, really, really good. So they kept it high. They kept. I think this is the best part of the movie in general. Like the very interesting part is that apart from the political thriller type of theme that's very unique to the movie, it's also a very emotionally charged movie. And there's a lot at stake, and there's a lot of emotional crescendo in this movie, and a lot of really kept me glued to the screen at the end of the day. I think the intro sequence specifically was not very interesting, but as soon as we started getting a bit more into the dialogues between President Ross and Sam Wilson, that when I was like, oh, things are starting to happen here, because President Ross was like, I need to get the Avengers back together, and you need to lead them, and he was like immediately. Also, the music was incredible. Like Sam started getting suspicious and all that stuff. Is quite interesting. So interesting stuff. So that I really liked. Then I also, again, the emotional tone, as I said, very, very high, and it's a very there is a proper dissolution. This is emotional conundrum here, which is really good. Like the ending is pretty well set up, and the I guess the thing that ties the leader, which is the main villain of the movie, and Captain Ross and Red Hulk, basically is very important here. And the whole plot of the movie is also basically it's an agreement basically between the leader and Captain America, right? Captain America thinks that that basically President Ross has changed as a person. He believes in the good of people. While the leader is pessimistic and thinks that people can never change and therefore they need to be punished for that, right? While Sam Wilson thinks that people can and should be afforded the possibility to change and should be protected specifically because of that, right? To afford them to give them a second chance and, give them some grace in that sense, which is really what ultimately makes Sam Wilson the perfect Captain America. He's a very, very, like, he sees the good in people and he's there to protect, give people a sign of not this is what I say, like, not simply hope. That's basically Steve Rogers, Captain America's message, but it's more like give them an ideal of change and, sort of a leader that leads them to like proper, better, and embodies basically better ideals for the US, right? And just in general the world, because it is, as they've said, this is a very global movie in that sense. So very cool stuff. I also really did like, the, I guess, juxtaposition between this Sam and the Steve Captain America is in that sense. Like, Steve definitely definitely had, I guess, the morality of Captain America, but I think he was also very much never going, he was always for the, for saving even the people who did wrong in that sense. Well, Sam is that definitely, but also I think he's more smart about it and he's ready to, make concessions to evil people and to make, to bargain with, the enemies basically to get a better outcome overall. And I think also, but they're also quite similar in the sense of they both are very idealistic, but I think Sam is more grounded in reality and understands both sides in that sense, while Steve was a bit more one-sided and a bit less in the gray area, if I have to be honest. I think he was more, like, for example, Civil War really, I think, opened my eyes on like what Steve Rogers was as a Captain America. He was more like, not seeing Iron Man's side, and he was definitely choosing, like, he ended up basically choosing the Winter Soldier over, Iron Man because, I don't know, he had personal matters in his hands. Well, I think he didn't really afford much grace to, Tony Stark, and he could have, he was still his friend. He should have, understood his other side and maybe prepared him better for the truth, which was that, the Winter Soldier killed his, Tony Stark's parents. But whatever, that's another conversation. But yeah, so also really like some of the settings. The Celestial Island backdrop was incredible in the jet scene. The jet scene itself was just beautiful, just Gorgina, like. The backdrop of that giant in the ocean is just so cool. I just loved it so much. I also really liked the Hulk scenes. All the Hulk scenes were incredible. The ones where they were like at the top of the White House and the Red Hulk gets the American flag and like the pole and like throws it at the helicopter and all that stuff. Incredible. And then when he jumps from the like when Red Hulk jumps from the White House, he destroys basically from the impact, like left behind the entire White House. It's just incredible. The chase scene between them was just so cool, and also the fight between them was incredible. And I still think that there's a lot of I like that they bring up this important conversation which needs to be had. Is that Sam Wilson is the only is the only one that doesn't have any superpowers at all. Like he refused to take the serum, and here he really grapples with that idea that he should have, and he should he needs that extra help to, I guess, achieve that. And he regrets at times not taking it. There is a scene where his own, basically, Falcon, the new Falcon, gets very badly injured, and he blames himself and the fact that he doesn't have much power as a human in that sense, in terms of physicality. He blames himself for that. But I think that's what makes this character very compelling, is that he, at the end of the day, refuses to take the serum anyways because he thinks that he can still, show to people that he's still worthy to be Captain America despite not having any superpower whatsoever, right? So that is very powerful. I still think he needs the serum, to be fair, because he cannot possibly compete with these threats. He barely survived the Red Hulk, basically, and I think if he had the serum, he would have at least fared better against him physically, I guess. So very interesting stuff, but I think he does need to take the serum, unfortunately. I mean, I understand his moral grounds, but man, if you want to survive, like actually live this, like survive this, you need to take it, I think. But yeah. Now, let's get, I guess, before this episode runs for too long, but let's get into like all the criticisms that I've seen floating around. Despite like, me saying that this movie's fairly good, like it's solid. Overall, I think many critics don't believe that, and they don't agree with me, unfortunately. I've seen some critics actually agree with me in the sense that there is a lot of like forced hatred on these movies, but majority of the critics are saying that this is like, a disconnected movie, and it's just, Marvel has lost his touch and his thoughts and all that stuff, and I can see why you would believe that. And I do not disagree in a sense of that. I can only disagree that Marvel has lost a bit of its, disconnectedness. Lost its like, connectivity, I guess. Sorry, between all the movies. That definitely is a thing. But also, I would like to venture and like to hope, basically, that this movie is actually, a first block, I guess, in what is the culmination of Avengers Doomsday and everything else. Because to me, at least the way I watched the movie and interpreted the movie, this is a setup for Sam to bring the Avengers together. Literally, this what part of the conversations that are faced in this movie are about that, and it is a stepping stone, I guess, in that sense, for a building block, I guess, for what's about to come. So I understand there has been a bit of I guess like a problem with connectivity between all the movies. You don't feel as connected and as organic and all that stuff. And there are several reasons why I think that hasn't happened. But I do think that this movie actually is going to be a stepping stone for, and it's going to be, it's going to have huge ramifications going forward, right? It's going to be a stepping stone for the next movies as well. And I think you can sort of see also that the Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four coming up this year are also all stepping stones for Avengers Doomsday. And I think people should afford a bit more lenience to these movies, because I think there's going to be a good payoff eventually as well. Like Sam here is getting prepped to be the leader of the future Avengers that are going to fight against Doom. There's also a little droplet here for Doom, and at the end of in the only post-credit scene, they're talking about the multiversal wars, basically, right? So there is something there, but I think people are missing the fact that this is, unfortunately, I mean, it's taken us so long, but it is something that is setting up the next movies, and I understand the criticisms that it doesn't, well, Marvel hasn't felt as connected as before, but I want to defend this movie and also Marvel in general, because there are several reasons why, and it's not simply sloppy writing, because this again is not a sloppy written movie. It's a fair, like, and a solid movie, a Marvel standard movie in that sense. It's a building block. It's a first movie in a series, like view it as that, right? And to defend Marvel, I think there are several reasons why, as of now, movies haven't felt as connected. Definitely, the writing has not been the best. I have to agree with the previous movies. And I think it's not simply a problem with creative direction, but I think there's been a lot, going on at Disney in general. One part of it, I think, is the post-pandemic world that we live in. I think Disney Plus has definitely watered down the connectivity between all the movies. Like, ever since streaming has become a huge phenomenon in the entertainment industry, I think Marvel was sort of forced to produce TV shows and a lot of stuff that went on the streaming service that, I guess put a lot of things on a plate, right? So there was so much output and so little consideration of, how all these things, all these pieces were gonna fall into place. But I think also another problem is a Bob Chapek situation, which is basically the previous CEO that sort of sent Disney in a bit of a low time and specifically put it at war against the conservative audiences. And it's still, Disney and Marvel in general are still recovering from this. So they're still recovering from the pandemic, in my opinion, but also still recovering from the advent of streaming and this Bob Chapek situation. And plus, on top of that, I would say it's also a post Jonathan Majors recovery period. Like, Jonathan Majors was supposed to be the main villain, like it was gonna play basically King, and some of the movies, including Quantumania and other like Loki and all this stuff, they were all building towards this huge villain. And then there was a private matter that tainted, I guess, Jonathan Majors' reputation, and Disney had to backtrack and backpedal and had to change basically his narrative and the narrative of the Marvel movies, basically, and find a new villain out of nowhere to put into this, in this phase 5 and 4 and 5, basically. So I can partially blame Marvel, I guess, for its sloppy writing, but also I cannot really blame it so much because they had to reschedule and redo everything. And part of it also is reflected in his movie, because I think you can really feel this movie was shot so many times and reshot so many times because they had to like change the plot line severely and change it so many times and rework it around and all that stuff. The Bob Chapek situation was also very unfortunate. I think Marvel was, and Disney in general, was under a hyperproductive phase that was, forced by Bob Chapek in his CEO days. And then with Bob Iger now, where he's trying to save the company by focusing more on sequels, which I think is the right choice. And this is also a step in the right direction, to be fair, because I do think that, again, we are sort of missing that connectivity because of how much output Bob Chapek has put into this, had put into the Disney machine. So I think since now we're focusing a bit more on the quality and the, building off of previously written stories and focusing on sequels and all that stuff, I think we're slowly getting out of the low point of all these combining factors, and we're slowly, hopefully, starting to focus a bit more on what is about to come next, which is Doomsday and the Avengers movies and all that stuff. I mean, you can already see some good signs from the change in direction, I guess, of the CEO, because, The Lion King 2, despite all the negativity, it still performed incredibly well, was one of the highest grossing movies of 2024. Inside Out 2 was also one of the highest grossing movies of 2024. And Moana 2 was also very, very successful. So I think in the different Disney divisions, Bob Iger, the new CEO, is definitely, new, but also old, because he returned basically as CEO after Bob Chapek. But he's definitely, redirecting Disney and Marvel in the right direction. That does not mean that they're going to be able to, overcome the negativity anytime soon, because it still feels like the conservative audiences are still very much, against Disney and against Marvel because of the Florida situation and all this stuff, and DeSantis and all of that. But I still think that we should trust this new direction, the creative direction of Marvel and Disney in general, because I've seen the effects before with other divisions, Pixar and Disney Animation, all that stuff. It seems that they're getting on the right track, but again, only time will tell. I think also this movie has a full month to, get a revenue in that sense, because there's no other movie in Hollywood. Hollywood is in a very poor state at the moment, and they're all hoping that something's going to change. And I think the fact that there's no other movie competing with this one at the moment is also a sign that Hollywood is, very afraid of making any bad steps. So I think people are going to check out this movie and are going to hate on it, the conservative audiences, but hopefully people can come around and still enjoy the movie for what it is. I think it's a very solid movie, to be fair. It's not nothing, crazy bad at all. It's actually pretty good. It's a movie. It's definitely a good movie. It's not the greatest movie ever made, but it's also not what people are saying that it is, like a sloppy, disgusting movie. It's not. Literally. Like, just go and watch it for yourself, and you'll see that it's actually a pretty solid movie. So, yeah. So, what's next? I would say my only advice is for Marvel from moving forward. I mean, this is also a movie that was reshot so many times, so I understand that the script is not perfect anymore because it's like, it's been changed and revised to fit this new creative direction and this new villain coming in and this new story that had to be changed because of external factors. But I would say for the next movies, and probably we'll see that in the next, in the Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four, I would say lean in more into the Easter eggs, try and make it feel like as if these movies are actually all connected and there is something to look forward to in that sense. So, but I'm positive. I think there will be more good stuff coming up. I'm very excited for Daredevil as well. A lot of good stuff coming up. But the Thunderbolts movie looks incredible. The trailer for both the Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four movie look very promising to me. So I am excited. And yeah, again, check out the movie for yourself. Don't let the critics and, some hate train basically repel you from going and watch this movie and enjoy it. So, and I also was very surprised that there are actually some people going to watch this movie. Like, I went to the cinema and it was full. The theater was full, and there are a lot of people showing up for this, and they all agreed to me at the end of the movie that it was an okay movie. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. So give it a go. Yeah, but yeah, that's it. Stand strong, Marvel. I am still rooting for you. I'm still there. If you have 100 fans, I'm one of them. If you have one fan, that means it's me. And if you have 0 fans, it means that I died. So yeah, that's it. Bye.